here.
Look
Yep.
at you.
Hair fluff. Hair fluff.
I already did mine.
The number 2 buzz doesn't need fluff.
You guys are great.
That's a good idea. Maybe I'll copy you.
All right, you're all set, thank you.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 15, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Chairman Parenti cannot be with us this evening, so I will be sitting in as chair this evening. And now I'll ask everyone at the table to kindly introduce themselves.
Tamara Trantalis, Administrative Assistant.
Tom Tarenti.
Paul Kaplan.
Kevin Cornell.
Judy Smith.
Jack Demerjen, Zoning Administrator.
Thank you, everyone. The first item on our agenda is the review of the minutes from our February 1st meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Do you have them?
No, I did review them. I just looked for them.
Anybody have any edits, deletions, additions?
I had no comments.
No comments?
Move to accept the February 1st, 2022 minutes as put forth.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye?
Aye.
3 and 1 abstention because Tom was not here. Next item on the agenda, old business. Does anyone have old business to come up to the commission? Nope. New business? Okay, then we'll move on to Jack's report.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet tonight so we can get to the bulk of the meeting. The region, or South Central region of governments, we cannot share the responsibility of our representatives, so they do need one name, and then if that person is unable to attend, then we could send somebody in their stead, but they do need one name for.
Don't we have like a Proby or something like that?
Do we have an
how about
intern that we
Oscar?
could send?
Ozzy?
Ozzy.
He got the short end of the stick tonight.
I don't hear him complaining.
He is a giver.
Yes, he's very accommodating too.
Very accommodating.
He's a wonderful guy.
I heard through the grapevine, he defended me at the last meeting, so
No, he didn't.
I'll take care of it.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Tom.
Tom.
That's great.
Well,
Tom
yeah,
would be
that
our
does deserve a round of
It
applause.
does.
And like I said, if you can't make it at some point, then
Paul will be happy
people
to
can
sub
fill
for
in.
you.
Yeah.
It's Thursday night still, right?
Yeah, it was. I can pull that up. I'll email you tomorrow. I think it's the second Thursday of every month, around 5 o'clock.
And they're
5:45.
still all Zoom?
All
on that?
Zoom. Yes, you can
So-
Zoom in. You don't have to go in person. I'll send you the information that I was given after the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tom. Anything else, Jack?
No.
Okay.
Not for tonight.
All right, we have 5 public hearings this evening. So we will have our secretary read the public notices, please.
And Paul, there are 2 public notices, just because, the last 3 were added after the fact. So the first one will be for the 2 physical applications that we have tonight, the re-subdivision and the site plan.
So that's the first one?
Yes, that is the first one. Appeared on February 2nd and February 9th.
Right. All right.
To appear one time on Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, and one time on Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. The Orange TPZC, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that on Tuesday, February 15th, 2022, at 7 p.m. at the Orange Town Hall, 617 Orange Center Road, the Orange Town Plan and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing on the following: re-subdivision application submitted by Sunrise Hill Estates, LLC, for the re-subdivision of lot number 4 of the Sunrise Hill Estates to create a single-family residential lot comprised of 2.85 acres in the residential, parenthetical, RES, close parenthetical, zone at the end of Skyview Road. site plan application submitted by MLG Real Estate LLC for the property known as 205 Edison Road to construct a 29,856 square foot addition with associated parking, driveways, and drainage. An application for temporary special use earth materials removal and filling has been submitted in conjunction with this application. A copy of this notice has been filed in the Orange Town Clerk. Additional information is on file in the Orange Zoning Department, dated in Orange, Connecticut, this first day of February 2022.
Thank you,
The
Paul.
second one needs to be read, or no?
Up to, we could probably do that after we do the first two, and then we'll take the next
Whatever
three
you need.
items.
Okay.
As we
Okay.
go.
All right, so the first of the two that Paul just read, the re-subdivision application submitted by Sunrise Hill Estates LLC for the re-subdivision of Lot 4 of Sunrise Hill Estates to create a single-family residential lot from an existing lot comprised of 2.85 acres in the residential zone at the end of Skyview Road. We'll ask the applicant to come to the podium, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Porto. I practice law with Perrette, Porto, Parisi, and Caldwell. Our office is located in Hamden. So I'm going to ask if the commission will allow us to pass. Our engineer is stuck in traffic. I heard he's close, but not yet here. So our application will be quick. It's a simple resub, but we can't do it without our engineer.
Okay, if we
Do you want-
flip?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could
Do you want,
just flip
do you
the
want
two,
him to
yep.
come and we'll do our next public hearing?
No,
You want to skip tonight?
No, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. I want to see if number 2
Yeah,
can
that's-
come in our
yeah,
place.
Yeah, that's what we're
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
You got it.
Thank you.
Okay, so then our first public hearing will be site plan application submitted by MLG Real Estate LLC for property known as 205 Edison Road to construct a 29,856 square foot addition with associated parking, driveways, and drainage. And also an application for temporary special use and earth materials removal and filling.
Is it possible for you to put them up here?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Right up on this?
Yes.
If that works for you.
Can I take this off to talk so you can?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, good evening. For the record, my name is Rob Blanchette. I'm with Borghese Building, and we are representing MLG Real Estate for their 30,000 square foot expansion. The property's located 205 Edison Road. As you can see, this is their existing facility right here, and we're looking at doing, just to round up the number, a 30,000 square foot addition off the north side of the building. The building itself is going to expand into the existing parking area, and you can kind of see that outlined in pink, which is where their parking is now. So the majority of that addition does go into the existing parking, and then we're expanding the rest further to the north there. The parking lot is going to be improved from what they have now because the building was there so long, so there's no landscaping in the parking lot at all. It's just long runs of 25 parking spaces. So with the new layout, everything conforms to the regulations as far as maximum amount of parking spaces, landscaping at the end of each island. There's only one island which is being removed, and that was actually requested by the fire department during their review. They also wanted us to take one parking spot out. So interestingly enough, there were 237 parking spaces exist now. With the expansion, there'll still be 237 parking spaces, so there's no change in the amount of parking. The required parking spaces is 227, so we're still 10 over what's required, but there won't be any increase in that. Also because of, the parking's going to be the same, so there's really no impact on traffic at all either. In your packet, on SP5, we actually, at the request of the town and also the fire department, there's a drawing here that shows the truck turning radiuses with the fire trucks to show that they can maneuver in and out of the parking lot itself. And that was one of the reasons why they wanted us to do away with that one island that was there and just do it as a painted stripe. And then we did lose from the originally submitted plans, one other one in the back there. The drainage, all the drainage on site is all picked up. And I'll kind of go back to this one. Actually, SP2, it shows a little bit more blown up on that. So some of the existing piping that services this area is going to be abandoned. Some is new. Everything's tied in. All the main drainage comes down through this point, through a water treatment, stormwater treatment system, into a detention basin, so it's still going to be zero increase runoff with the new development, and then that's going to tie into the existing system that's over there after the detention basin. The other part of the project is the special permit for moving more than 400 cubic yards on site. And just to give you a breakdown as far as what's going to transpire here, there's 3,800 cubic yards of cut material on the site, but that's going to be reused on the site itself. There will be an import of material under the building slab, which is going to be a structural fill. That's 3,500 yards. And then we have another 1,700 cubic yards underneath the new paved areas as a base for the asphalt. The only thing that's going to be exported from the site is a small amount of topsoil, excess topsoil, because that can't be used under the asphalt areas. And the building itself, the look of the building is going to match exactly what they've got there now. That's the floor plan. Same colors, same material. So what they've got out there now is a 7-foot 4-inch high masonry block that goes around the perimeter building, a rib panel above that. Colors will match everything that's out there now. So nothing's going to look like an add-on. We're doing the same thing on the corners. On the far end of the building, we did skewed corners on that with the last addition, and that's the same thing that's going to occur with this one. And it's fairly straightforward. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions.
Question, is it a correct interpretation that the truck loading is on the unaffected portion of the site?
When you say unaffected,
Basically, there's a west side, the north side and the south side of the building. You're working on the north side.
we're working on the north side.
Is the truck loading on the south side?
There's truck loading in the existing, if you look at the existing site plan here, there's loading docks all along this side here. They do have truck dock that's on the existing north side of the building.
Right.
That one we're gonna keep active during the construction process until and then there's gonna be 2 new ones that are gonna be on this wing. But they've got ones located right up on this side of the existing wall, so we have to keep those operational during the process.
So where's the truck loading on the new
On the new one is
addition?
right here. There's a little, it's hard to see. You see the main part of the building where it says proposed addition. There's
Yeah.
a little wing that sticks
Right.
off of that. That's where the new loading docks will be, right in that area. There's 2 loading docks and 1 drive-in door.
So they're going to be backing down through this parking lot, 150 feet where that proposed construction entrance is?
Yeah, so they'll actually back in right through here. So this is all wide open. So even once the trucks are backed up into that area, it doesn't block any of the egress out of those parking spaces. Nobody gets blocked in.
And you ran the WB 67 templates on that
Yeah,
movement?
yep. Yes.
And they didn't So if it works for the fire department, it works for the,
Yeah, well, the other, it's kind of odd because the fire trucks are actually shorter, but they have
weird.
bigger swings because they're fixed. But
Right.
we do the WB60 layout, so they can get a truck in there with a sleeper cab with a 53-foot trailer.
okay. The existing drainage from the portion of the parking lot on the south side that's not being affected by the construction,
This one here actually has its own detention basin over on this side of the property now. None of the grades are shown over there because we're not doing any work in that area whatsoever.
okay, so that parking lot goes to the south,
Goes
drains
to
towards
this
the
one.
south.
Yep.
So
The
that
only thing-
18-inch line that's coming to the north, move your hand a little further.
Yep, follow along here.
That's not picking off runoff from?
No, that one's staying in place as is. We're picking up the drainage from this area, bringing it over here. So that's actually gonna cross where the other pipe is. That one we're just leaving as is. We're not doing anything with that. This one crosses over, goes through its own stormwater treatment system into its own detention basin.
Yeah, that is a nice upgrade, getting the Vortechnics in there
Yeah.
and the new detention basin. I was just wondering if there was a way to intercept some of the loading docks, usually are the place that brings up the most.
Yeah, those
Material.
ones, yeah, those ones are all tied into that other system here. I'm not sure, I don't know if that, although that was just done 5 years ago, so that
Oh.
probably has
Okay.
one on it. I can't imagine that it wouldn't have had one on it. A stormwater treatment system.
Oil separator?
Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
yep.
It does.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, that we just do as a standard whenever we do that.
So in addition to the net zero runoff, we have an upgrade in water quality.
Yes,
As a
that
result of this addition.
yes.
What are the materials on the outside of the building?
It's a split face block down low, so let me get the elevation. So this matches what's on the rest of the facility now, is 7'4" split face, tinted split face block. Then there's a standard block. There's a standard block at the top, and that allows the metal panel just to lap that. And then the metal panel above that, skewed entry on the corner, and some glass, which is similar to what's on the south side of the existing building now. And then part of the existing building does have metal panel to the bottom, but they prefer to have that hard surface down low.
I was sort of curious, the required number of loading docks is 5, and you're providing 18. So how many are going to be in the old existing building versus how many will be in the new building?
Well, the new building will have the 3. It's gonna have loading dock, and then a large drive-in door.
Okay.
And the rest of the loading spaces are all
Existing.
located along here. Those are all existing.
Okay.
But there's just so much separation between this and that part. You really needed to have loading docks for the new
For the new-
area.
Yep.
And those are primarily for flow. The flow comes in from the outside and funnels through those main loading docks in the central portion of it.
You got it.
Take my mask off. Sorry. Scott Magner, Vice President of Rural Products, representing MLG Realty. So the flow of the product as we manufacture comes in from the outside and goes in and then is shipped out through the main loading docks here. So everything within the factory flows in this direction. So that's why there needs to be loading docks on those other areas. So they're really offloading docks, if you want to call them that.
Right. For delivery out.
For going in, and then the other stuff goes out to the
Okay.
center. But
Yep.
Jack has my contact.
And Jack, do we have all the department head sign-offs for
Yeah,
this
we do.
application? We do. Any other comments from the commission? Do we have anyone in the public that would like to address this application? No? Okay, does the commission feel they have enough information to close the public hearing? Take a motion.
I move to close the public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, the public hearing is closed. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. One quick, do you make a decision on it this evening?
Pretty soon.
Okay.
Like right now.
Well, we
Stay
were
tuned.
going to, but now we're not.
Yeah, you went and opened your mouth.
So
You just ruined the
comments,
mood.
comments. What are our thoughts on this application?
To me, it's very straightforward. It's the right type of use and the right type of zone. Meets all of the bulk area requirements. The applicant believes that, the interior traffic circulation suits their needs.
Indicated that the drainage was an upgrade as well.
The drainage in the new section will have an upgraded water quality to it. So it's just more of a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. No, I think it's great that we have an existing business that is expanding in town. I'm just getting nervous with their coverage. They're almost at their maximum coverage. So, as they
Using as much as they
possibly can.
can.
They're
Yep.
good for that.
And still have the parking and the space, it looks like.
Yep.
I'll move that we approve the move that we approve the site plan application submitted by MLG Real Estate LLC for the property known as 205 Edison Road to construct a 29,856 square foot addition to the associated parking, driveways, and drainage. Do I have the approval go to the
Yeah,
application?
as well as the application for.
And the approval, the motion should cover also the application for temporary special use, earth materials removal and filling.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye, motion
Aye.
carries. And Jack, there is a bond that goes along with the S&E?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, now we'll go to the previous public hearing for Sunrise Hill Estates.
right.
Do you need me to take my mask off? I didn't even ask.
It's completely up to you.
All right,
Yeah,
well,
we
I'll be
can't-
here so
We can't
quickly.
understand you or
Right.
be on
Yeah.
the record. But other
The
than that,
stenographer can, you can hear.
So do I, yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, so thank you for your patience. Again, Joe Porto, Perrette Porto, we represent the applicant. This is a re-subdivision for a property located at 54 Skyview Road. Property presently is 2.85 acres. After the split, the property will comply with all of the bulk zoning requirements. I would like to have the project engineer, Mike Ott, come up, go over for you his plans, answer any questions you may have. And we also have David Lord from Soil Resource Consultants, project soil scientist, for if you should have any questions in that regard. And of course, I'm here to answer any questions if you have any of me, so thank you.
Good evening. I'm sorry, I missed what Joe said. Should I take this off or?
Totally up to you.
Up to you.
Okay,
Whatever you're comfortable with.
me too. For the record, I'm Mike Ott. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Summerhill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors in Madison, 60 Wall Street, Madison, Connecticut. My apologies to the commission for being late. I completely underestimated the traffic on the parkway at this hour.
Take your picture off the wall, don't worry.
Jack asked me to bring 5 copies of the revised drawings. Should I pass
Sure.
those out, Jack? Jack had these electronically, and I have only mailed him 1 paper copy, so I can send them down. These are collated. Yeah, thank you. And then,
I'll pass it down here. Thank you very much.
Two each.
The revisions are very minor. They were in response to the town engineer's review comments. One of his comments, as you probably saw, was to add a note that both lots, the existing lot and the proposed lot, will be responsible for maintenance of the stormwater detention basin that's on the parcel. And his second comment was that we ended up having a discussion, and I added a roof water infiltration system for the impervious surface area on the new lot. So those are the only two changes to what you've already seen. The lot configuration has not changed. Both lots meet the town's zoning regulations. We worked with the town's health department for over a year, I think, on the development of the new lot, the development plan for the new proposed lot. We installed a groundwater control drain and monitored it through a wet season. Did additional soil testing, designed a septic system for it. The health department has approved it. In fact, your health department had the state health department come down and take a look at the site and review the plan also. It's my understanding, in speaking with Brian Slagowski.
Is that typical?
No, it's not actually. This is
What's the cause of that?
This is the soils on this lot aren't so great. There's a restrictive layer that was holding the groundwater up. That's why we installed the groundwater control drain. There's a provision in the public health code to install a drain, monitor it through a wet season, February to May, and make sure that groundwater control drain has lowered that water table. It's not the actual water table, it's a perched water table. It's groundwater riding on a restrictive layer 30 inches or so below the ground surface. So,
Thank you very much.
yeah, I think Brian wanted an extra pair of eyes, an extra set of eyes on it.
So for the benefit of the non-technical people here, effectively, you've got a very steeply sloped site that runs down towards Route 34 and off towards the neighbor, Mr. D'Ambroso's property, and the surface water is constrained by like a clay layer or something, and it sort of slides over the top. Is that what a perched water table would be?
Up gradient, way uphill,
Yeah.
as rainwater and snow melt infiltrates into the ground, it makes its way through the ground surface, but then, as is fairly common, especially in my part of the state, in this particular site, there's a dense soil layer down about 30 inches or so. So as that water is infiltrating way up gradient, it gets to that dense layer and it rides the dense layer instead of going down and joining the actual groundwater table. So you have the actual groundwater tables down here, and a perched water table riding that dense soil layer is higher. And that's the layer that's the perched water table. artificial.
P-E-R-C-H-E-D, perched?
Yes, P-E-R,
understand.
yes. Yeah, that's the groundwater that we had to control, and it gets dropped down into a groundwater control drain. In that way, it does not affect the operation of the leaching field.
Okay, would that sort of condition also be maybe a contributing factor to why, some of the neighbors have water issues coming their way from that hill?
Could be. I mean, the surface water
Right.
runoff, totally different, separate. But yeah, surface water runoff, the soils aren't that permeable. So they might be experiencing during certain rainfall events, surface water runoff. And that's why the town engineer asked us to put that infiltration system in. It takes all the water from the roof of the proposed residence and puts it into the ground. So it's actually, that was one of the revisions we made to the
All right,
plans.
so the septic system becomes possible because you're draining the perched water table below the infiltration level of the septic field,
Right.
okay? But, so that's just handling that limited area over by the septic system?
Correct. Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yep.
Mike, did you say that that perched layer was 30 inches below the surface?
I can't remember exactly. I don't have the septic plan with me, but it's typically, if I recall, it was down about that. It's typically, in most parts of the state, 2 feet to 3 feet. It's typically 24 inches to 36 inches, typically. It's very, very common. It's likely the whole site, the Fieldstone Village and everything upgrading it is similar soil conditions, I would imagine. As well as the other lots in the subdivision.
And the stormwater detention basin that you're showing on your plan is existing?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the way you're net importing fill to try and bring up you're net importing fill onto the site to bring up the ground floor level of the proposed house more, like within 5 or 6 feet of the turnaround that's there?
Yes, and also to give a reasonable driveway grade, down to the garage. Yep. The lot next door, there's a home under construction on the lot next door. It's same situation. If you've been out there, they
Yeah, I
placed
went.
fill also.
You say a lot next door, you mean to the north?
To the
Or the
to the
Lucarelli?
south, Lucarelli, I think. That home's under construction now.
This is part of the 41 that we approved. How many units are we talking about here? How many lots are here?
There were 2 subdivisions for Skyview. This was the second, and I believe it created 7 lots.
7 lots?
This is
Yes.
lot 4 of the 7.
If you look at the location map in the upper left corner, you
Yes,
can
yes.
see
Thank you.
all of the lots. And that gray shaded lot is the subject of the application.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Mike, this stormwater detention basin was, that was put in previously.
Yes.
Is this looks eerily like the northwest corner of the site, where
Yeah.
that other large detention system is.
So I reviewed, Jack was actually nice enough to scan and send me the original drainage report for the original Fieldstone Village, the whole development. I reviewed it so that I could have a conversation with Bob Britton, your town engineer. There's 2 detention basins. The one, I guess it would be the northwest part of the overall larger parcel,
Yeah, that's
more
a-
towards
looks
the
like a much
intersection.
larger
Yeah.
Detention.
Yeah, and this was they referred to this one in the report as the easterly detention basin.
Since this detention basin is existing and it appears to be taking storm water from further up the hill, is there an easement in favor of the drainage easement across this lot?
Yes, there's an easement in favor of the town of Orange. Those are the shaded areas. And there's also easements in favor of the homeowners association. Those are record easements that are recorded in the land records now and on the filed record subdivision map.
So the frontage, the required 150 feet frontage, they're counting Derby Avenue as their frontage and not Skyview.
That was our first
Jack and I
question.
had a big back and forth over that early on, yes.
And that is permitted.
Yeah.
You mean they're using whatever it is, 34 as their frontage?
Correct.
Right.
Even though the access will be off.
Nothing will be off of Sky? was it?
No, it's going to be off of Skyview.
Yeah.
Right.
But normally the frontage,
Would be off of that street.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you can see, the original subdivision, if you look at that location map, you can see that that lot 4 obviously didn't have, on the cul-de-sac only had a short distance.
Right.
So it of course used Route 34
Okay.
as its frontage.
And we did that originally?
That was part of the original 7-lot subdivision.
So what is the actual lineal feet on Skyview?
Um,
Only about 40 or 50 feet.
Okay,
It's a little over 56 feet.
okay.
Almost 57. And for the existing lot, it is almost 19 feet.
Well, if that's the case, that's going to be your frontage, then your subdivision map should have a 50-foot setback on the property line, the rear property line.
And it does.
But that's not the rear, that's your frontage. You're
I-
using,
I don't think there is a rear here. I think we have 2 fronts and 2 sides, I believe.
I don't get that. So you want to take advantage of the 150 feet on 34 as your front yard.
Right. And we show.
So that's a front yard setback.
Right. And we
Right.
also show 50 feet on Skyview Road also.
But it would be along that whole side. Why wouldn't it also be along the 263-foot section of that?
You mean here?
Why would that become a side if that's the rear?
Well, you know, these things can be up to interpretation by the zoning officer, but my take on it is this is a bit unusual. This happened, of course, this line happens to be right at the, I'm sorry, right at the cul-de-sac. It's, you know, it's right, and if you think about it, if you look at that location map, that line is roughly perpendicular to Skyview Road, but it happens to be right at the cul-de-sac. And I think that's why even in the record subdivision map that's filed today, that's how the setback is shown. It's Town Clerk Map number 401. It's referenced on our.
You mean setback
map.
from Skyview?
This one that the commissioner is questioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how the record subdivision map shows the setbacks.
In other words, not from the 263-foot portion, but from the Skyview Road portion.
Maybe I'm confusing the matter. Oh, thank you. Thanks. I can move this closer too, I suppose.
better.
That was a little easier. Okay, thanks, Tim. I
Yes.
think this will work. So,
Right.
Could be this, but
unsubdivided, this whole lot,
is defined as the street line, not necessarily front.
make believe the division line's not there. All the setbacks that we're showing are the same as the record subdivision map, when the subdivision was first approved.
Right.
So we didn't change anything. We just followed that, I assumed, interpretation, you know, that was approved previously. So we haven't changed a thing. We held 50-foot setbacks along Route 34, 50 foot around the cul-de-sac, and 25s everywhere else, just like the record subdivision map. It is odd. It is an odd situation where you're right on a cul-de-sac and you got, you know, another road in the rear, basically. But that's exactly how the record subdivision was approved.
Just out of curiosity, where will the front of the house be?
The front of the house. This is the site development plan that I'm switching to. So the front of the house is facing the cul-de-sac. The garage is a front-load garage that we've shown. So the front of the house is facing the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
or looking towards the cul-de-sac.
It seems like it's a bit of a moot point in that the corner of the closest point of the house toward the bottom is more than 50 feet anyway, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Here, you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
So it's really kind of a moot point.
In my experience, these odd things get interpreted sometimes by the commission or by the zoning officer. And maybe when the original subdivision went through, that's how it was interpreted.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it
Was
was.
it? Yeah.
We were all here and don't remember.
Well,
Yeah.
except for,
I wasn't here.
Jack wasn't born. And the total lot size is 2.58?
yes.
Okay.
Do you think that some of the recontouring that would go along with building this house might actually help direct some of the surface water away from the adjoining neighbor, Mr. D'Ambrosio? From the existing grades?
Yes, honestly, I hadn't thought about that, but as I'm staring at it to answer your question, yes, because today, the surface water flow pattern is pretty much easterly. And if we just considered this lot, it would start up here at the edge of the road, and head this way easterly towards his northwest corner. But now, as you can see, that surface water drainage pattern changes. It gets turned like this, and it heads more northeasterly to the stormwater detention basin.
I don't really follow that, Mike, because you're picking these grades up pretty significantly on the east side.
Yeah, but we've reduced the drainage area is what I'm getting at. So today, the drainage area starts up here, and if you look at these existing contours, it all heads like this. So we've cut the drainage area. Now we only have a much smaller drainage area heading in that same direction, if you
Yeah,
think about it.
the house is basically like a berm, taking two-thirds of the site and setting it towards the stormwater detention basin.
Right.
So it could potentially improve.
Yeah.
Do we need any other sign-offs?
Do we have all the
We
sign-offs?
do, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Wetlands guy I think the wetlands guy was gonna chat to us.
Do you have questions for David Lord? Would you like to?
If he wouldn't mind.
You have anything else, Michael?
No, unless the commission has
No.
anything else for me, I'm.
Someone from the public might need to say,
Yes.
ask you,
Okay.
but you can come back.
Okay.
Don't run away.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the commission, staff. For the record, I'm David Lord. I'm a professional soil scientist and environmental consultant. My company is Soil Resource Consultants. I have an office in Meriden. I prepared the original soil investigation of the property in a document that was dated November 22nd of last year, and then subsequently to discussions with Jack, I prepared an additional addendum which basically gives you more understanding of the background on why that opinion was rendered as it was, that the detention basin in this circumstance is not considered a wetland or an intermittent water course by state statutes. The short answer is wetland by soil type, it's definitely not that. There's no proximity to the groundwater table in the basin area. The lack of it meeting the criteria for intermittent water course designation is that particular state statute requires, one, a permanent channel with banks. If it doesn't have that, you don't have an intermittent water course. The discharge point for into the detention basin that we're talking about is not a finite constructed channel. It spreads out. There's a dissipator. I'm not sure exactly how to describe that type, but there's no confined channel. There's definitely no permanent channel with banks there. Then it has to have, if it has one, a permanent channel, it needs to have 2 of 3 secondary criteria. The first being standing or flowing water not directly related to a storm event. In this case, all of the water that comes to the detention basin comes through the drainage system. Very little comes overland. But most of the is a result of rain falling in the drainage area, collected by the catch basins, piped to the detention basin and discharged to the basin. All of that, and I saw no evidence, and in the bottom of the basin, I do extensive borings just to make sure there's no interaction with any groundwater condition to meet that particular criteria. Second criteria is the presence of hydrophytic or wetland-associated vegetation. There's nothing in the bottom of this. It's a very dry bottom area for the detention basin in this case, and nothing is in there, and nothing has grown or volunteer establishment into the bottom of the basin. And lastly, the third criteria is the evidence of alluvial scour or deposition, water picking up sediment and depositing it in a stratified manner within the basin. And this is the one criteria that in many instances the detention basin does develop over time, because you have a big storm, it drops a lot of sediment into the bottom of the basin, and they get stacked on top of one another, and you get layers that are identifiable. That criteria is not present here. Again, I looked at the soils in the bottom of the basin, and I see no evidence of any stratification or alluvial deposition in this case. The scouring that you see in the bottom, because it's very uneven bottom area in the detention basin, is all erosion scour from the force of the water moving through that area. Very few fines in the soil in the bottom of the detention basin. It's mostly large size cobbles, gravel, and sandy material that do not have a lot of internal cohesion, and so they move when hit with any kind of water. So in this particular case, we don't have a permanent channel with banks, and we don't have any of the 3 secondary criteria, which is the basis for preparing the original opinion that it does not meet criteria for designation as an intermittent watercourse.
So with respect to the remainder of the site, would you characterize basically the remainder of the site that's not the soil detention basin is soil that has been tilled under agriculture for a number of years, so the first 18 inches or so are all jumbled up, this UD,
The UD is man-induced disturbance of the soil profile.
Okay.
It's not in the natural identifiable to a soil scientist as a particular soil type.
Okay.
Udorthent is disturbed upland, meaning that there's no connection or proximity to an underground water table condition there. It's either agricultural or just regrading during development activities. Again, I am relatively new to this particular site, so I don't know what it looked like prior to the overall development of the site. And the UD is a taxonomic generalization for disturbed upland, non-wetland soils.
and the vegetation that established on the lot over time after agriculture is all upland vegetation?
Yes, there's no wetland vegetation that I saw. I might have seen a couple of clumps of soft rush, and that's it. And I dug around those areas just to make sure there wasn't any groundwater connection, and it wasn't. Those were just colonizing species that were coming into there, and they were very, very few of those. Most of the vegetation that you see on that site is volunteer, what would be considered weed species, that just colonize disturbed
And,
soils.
and none of the Phragmites that are in the catch basin for Fieldview Farms further up the road, that detention basin, the larger detention basin. If you go up 34.
Yes, no, I was trying to figure out what the question was.
Oh, well, there are a bunch of wetland species in their detention basins.
Yes, well, Phragmites is generally considered a facultative species because it will grow in non-wetland upland soils. In fact, I tell people there's a place up in Meriden where Route 15 and 91 co-join, and it's a 30-foot high fill slope that Route 15 is on the top of. And there's Phragmites on both sides of that fill slope, and there's no water table on that bank, because that's a big, almost like a dike for a dam where the road is. So it is, but it's not considered one, say by the Army Corps of Engineers or Connecticut Deep, do not consider Phragmites an indicator species for soil saturation or wetlands or non-wetlands. You don't take that in. Sure.
Any other questions from commission members? Okay, we'll see. Does the public have any comments on this application? Yes, sir. Okay, we have a few.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. One at a time, if you can come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Come to the podium.
Yes, please, sir. Thanks. Yeah.
My name is Raphael D'Ambroso, and I've called 612 Derby Avenue my home since 1955. Is the original developer associated with this project? That's one question that I wanted to ask. The original developer, the person who developed the whole...
Mr. Sachs?
Probably, yeah, I believe it's probably better for the applicant to address that.
Pardon me?
Once the applicant will have a chance to come up and answer any questions that you might have.
I don't know what applicant you're referring to.
The attorney for the application is best
I
suited to
see.
answer that question for you.
Oh, okay, all right. So he understands whether this is the original developer or not, because that's my question.
Okay.
I understand that it's a different civil engineering group. The original group was here from Orange, Modesti or Mopesti or something like that down on the Post Road in Orange.
Codispoti,
Yeah,
right.
so it's a different civil engineering group. So I had some questions, and I wish that some of the older people, the developer and the older engineering group were here to answer them. One of the questions was this originally two independent lots, or was it one big lot? Because I was here in 2005 when the proposal for this whole project went into effect, and it seemed that there were two independent lots, one adjacent to my property and one to the west of my property. I attended all of the meetings, and I was in favor of the project, the proposal. I think it's a good idea, not a bad one. There were several bad ones before that, very bad ones, as a matter of fact, but I supported this proposal, but with some reservations. as I say, I wish that the original people were here. Were any of you here? Were any of you here? I'm an Italian, so I usually sing opera. Can I just hold
We're going
this?
to help you in a second.
Thank you. Were any of you here at the time?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, I appreciate that. At
Yeah,
least-
two of us.
At least I feel I'm not entirely alone. All right. When the proposal to develop housing on the land along Route 34 between Grassy Hill Road and my property was initially presented to the Orange Zoning Committee in the year 2005, and I guess the two of you were the only people who were around back then. Obviously, you could tell from my gray beard that I was. I supported it with some reservations. One of those reservations concerned the lot now being proposed for re-subdivision. So at the initial zoning meeting, I asked the engineers from Codispoti, is that the way it's pronounced?
Codispoti.
Codispoti, the orange firm employed by the original developer, about the specific lot which abuts my property. They answered that they were not sure at that point in time, that would be 2005, whether or not that lot would be suitable to build on because it had a high water table, probably due to the fact that it's lower than the lot surrounding it. Obviously, I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect, I don't know much about this subject. I don't even know if my terminology here is correct, but you people, it seemed to me, were talking a lot about water. In any case, those engineers from that Codispoti, they answered that they were not sure at that point in time whether or not that lot would be suitable to build on because it had a high water table, probably due to the fact that it is lower than the lots surrounding it. They concluded their explanation by saying that they would know of that lot's suitability as a viable lot to build on only after they reshaped or recontoured, I think the word was used, recontoured, the topography and installed the proper drainage. That seemed quite reasonable and prudent to everyone concerned at that time. Their conclusion begs the question. If after the topography was reshaped and the proper drainage was installed, why didn't the original developer himself or herself, I don't know which, sell the two lots individually as they originally existed at that time? That's the question that's been running around in my brain for a long, long time. Why didn't the original developer sell the two lots individually as they originally existed at that time? Certainly, that option would probably have been significantly more profitable than combining the two lots into one large entity, which I assume was done. Am I correct?
I think, sir, and the engineer could speak to it in
Okay,
our
all right.
discussion.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not an engineer, so
No.
that's why I'm asking these questions.
And I think that the testimony we got when we were speaking with the engineers prior to your question, he outlined approximately a year process under which they had to evaluate,
That's right.
which corresponds to what Codispoti told you in the past.
Yes.
And that in order to make it work for the septic system, they had to drain a perched water table, which is consistent with your question. And it would seem that that was probably some sort of significant investment in time and effort that maybe they didn't go through originally,
That may be what, I'm sorry.
that they didn't go through with the original subdivision. And now with the benefit of, time and effort, that they've tried to answer all those questions.
Yeah, well, again, I'm not an engineer, and quite frankly, sitting down there, it's very difficult to hear what people up here are saying. I don't know if all of you can hear me, but I didn't hear everything that was said. In any case, this is a question, as I say, that I've been wondering. Why, after the topography was reshaped and the proper drainage was installed, the place was dug out for the water to drain into, et cetera. Why didn't the original developer sell those two lots as individual entities rather than combining them into one large entity? This is purely hypothetical in my case, but I suspect that he acted on the advice of the Codispoti engineers, who probably pointed out to him the possible danger and liability of building a house on that lot in question. I don't know that for a fact, but I haven't heard a more logical explanation of why he didn't sell the two lots as separate lots, which, as I say, would have been far more profitable from a businessman's point of view than combining them and selling them as one. I haven't heard a more logical explanation than that. So I think, and again, this is a theory, not a fact, I think that he probably chose the more pragmatic and possibly more ethical option, namely combining the two individual lots into one large entity and selling it for as much as he could in order to avoid any possible danger and liability related to building on the lot that abuts my property. I don't know that for a fact, but all the other lots were sold and there are buildings on them, but that one wasn't. So I can only go on what I see every time I look out my window. Now, I realize that this meeting is for the purpose of considering the re-subdivision of Lot 4 rather than for the purpose of considering building a house on it. However, it seems that one would follow the other logically as night follows day. After all, I'm going to be very straightforward in this when I say that this re-subdivision is probably not being considered for the purpose of establishing a bird sanctuary. I wish it were. I wish it were to establish a bird sanctuary or an animal sanctuary on that re-subdivided lot, because having lived there for so long, I've seen an awful lot of animals that have nowhere to live now. As I say, I supported the project, and I still do, but that has been some of the collateral damage. I've had skunks stuck in the wells of my house, little baby skunks who couldn't get out. I've had, deer, raccoons. They don't have a place to go. So I'm wondering if allowing this re-subdivision, it seems to me it's probably opening the door for a house to be built on that lot, and thereby risking the possible danger and liability that the original Code Despoti engineers and the original developer probably chose to avoid. As a businessman, I can tell you that when there's a problem, business people would rather just take as much money off the table and avoid liability than take a risk and get caught in a morass. Now, I've been counseled to request that this letter be submitted to the zoning board in writing and be included with the minutes of this meeting. Thanks for letting me read it to you, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, sir. And you can submit your letter to Jack, and it is part of the record.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll keep doing the public
Yep.
and then we can have them.
Yep. More people from the public to address this application, come on up to the podium, please. And kindly state your name and address for the record.
Right here.
Hello. My name is David Taiwo, and I'm the property owner of 47 Skyview.
Excuse me, could you talk a little louder?
I'm sorry.
I really can't hear
My name is David Taiwo. I'm the
you. To the microphone.
I'm talking to the mic.
Is that working?
I don't know.
Honestly, I can't hear you.
There's no speaker. There's no speaker back there, so
But go ahead. Go ahead.
If you'd like, you can take a chair.
correct.
and put it in a
You
little
can come closer.
whatever is comfortable for you.
All right. Taiwo. Correct. My name is David. My name is David Taiwo. I'm the property owner of 47 Skyview. I'm the property adjacent this application for re-subdivision. Now, we don't particularly have a problem with the re-subdivision. Our problem is the road. Now, I'm currently building on 47 Skyview, and what we were told was that the developer, which is Sunrise Hill Estate, they're supposed to have completed the road by now, because our property, I can't put my driveway until the road is done. Now, we've been told, I've called the city about the road, and the city said, we don't recognize the road because the developer hasn't finished the road to submit it over. And so it's kind of like we're chasing our tails here. I need our driveway should have been done before the winter. Now I'm moving into the spring. Now, we were told that the developer was going to do it in the spring. And in addition to that, he was going to clear the snow this winter so that people could pass through. Now, he didn't do that. So, indicating on that, I don't know if by waiting on him, because it's costing me money every time we want to move in by March. I can't put in my driveway. There is no snow. There's no snow plowing on that part of Skyview.
Okay.
In addition to that, the schools, the buses can't come to my end of the development to pick up the kids because it's not considered a city road yet. So my kids have to walk all the way to the previous cul-de-sac. So now, I don't have a problem with subdivision, but this developer, as a matter of fact, I was going to buy this property previously. I opted not to buy it, and it was sold to somebody else. And he told us then that he was done and he was moving out. So technically, he was done and moving out, and he didn't finish the road. So this subdivision is new coming in, and he still hasn't done the road. So where do we stand as owners on that road? The road is supposed to be done by now. You know,
Jack, is there
This is the
bond on
first
this?
we're hearing of this.
Yeah, well, this was the approved road for the subdivision, which it's typical that the developer won't turn over the road to the town until obviously it's done. I know we have had complaints about the maintenance, that I know the town engineer has been working with some of the homeowners on that road for. Yeah, I would have to look into the bond. I know that, again, it's not a town road. It's not something that we, or the town would take over and pave. Again, to my knowledge, I know I brought it up with town engineer Bob Brinton, and essentially we'd be
So-
waiting.
I didn't take very close notes, but I think what the condition that exists out there right now may be from the original cul-de-sac to the. Where do I begin?
Sorry,
No, I say, I didn't take careful note, but I believe from the original cul-de-sac to the extended one,
correct.
there may just be a binder course down there.
Correct.
Is that what it is?
Correct,
Okay.
yep.
So how many lots are served by that cul-de-sac?
Seven.
It's, I believe, the 7, yep. So it is paved up to the original cul-de-sac, and it only has the initial binder course from here to the end of the road.
So the other lots, are their homes built with driveways?
Yes, there are quite a bit. They're only my lot, so the only lots that are currently under construction right now is my lot of 47 and the one right next to this one that
Okay.
you want to subdivide. And they should be done in another 3-4 months. So we're planning to move in, and we're planning to move in April without a driveway. My builder, who is Peter Olson, can't finish the driveway. Now, he's saying, he's been trying to work with everyone here to say, I need my driveway done, but the only way I could do it is I have to either fix a street road myself, because there's an elevation and all of that kind of stuff. And I don't think it's my responsibility to build a main road. I will. I could bill you guys, but, this is what we're dealing with. So, and I'm sure you're going to hear from other homeowners over here that are dealing with the the plowing issue. This winter as well, there are days that the workers were working. They had to park at the end of the first subdivision because they couldn't walk through. It wasn't plowed. So we're dealing with a plowing issue, we're dealing with a road issue, and we're also dealing with the fact that by the time I move in, my kids the buses can't come over to the house because it's not a town road. And that based on that, it's a legal thing. They can't come in because it's not a town road.
So-
it's considered a private road.
So if it's not plowed, Jack, and there's a health, safety, welfare issue where we need to get an ambulance or police there, could that happen if there was snow on the ground? And then where's the liability?
That's a very good question.
Huge
I'm really not
liability.
sure how to answer that. I know that the other residents have reached out to the town engineer because he's the director of public works as well. And I think if it did get to that situation, that they would send over a truck to at least do one pass over there. But again, I'm not really sure where that would leave the town.
Are there any houses there with COs?
Oh, yeah.
I believe so, yeah, a couple.
How do they get the COs without the driveways? How do they get the driveways without?
Without the road paved?
Right.
Without a town acknowledged road?
That would be my question.
Okay.
So my whole thing here is I have no issue with the re-subdivision, but knowing how things work, the only way to chase the developer is I have to block him on what he's doing now so I get his attention. So all we're really doing right now is, I want to get his attention to do the road, and that's all what we really care about. Do the road, re-subdivide, do whatever you need to do, but we need the road done. And I'm sure any one of you here would need a road to your own house, right? So that's our issue.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Kindly state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Good evening. Excuse me. My name is Bayo Afolalu, and I live on.
Please, could you spell it, please?
Last name is Afolalu. I live on 42 Skyview Road. I have been a resident there since 2014. Thank you for having me here this evening. I was very pleased to get the letter to have an opportunity to come and address this body because my issue is very similar to David's issue. Like I said, I've lived there since 2014. Now, my house is the second house that was built on that subdivision. I actually had many conversations with the first house that was built, which was built probably about 15 years ago, and they have similar issues. He wasn't able to be here today because he's currently on vacation in Mexico, but he said, I'm speaking on his behalf also. Ever since I moved in, we've had problems, especially in the winter, because that's when, the snow's on the ground and we can't do anything. And I've made calls to the town hall to complain about that. A few weeks ago when we had a snowstorm, I had to go to work. It was a Saturday morning. I had to get out and plow the road so I could get my car out. And honestly, after that, I was going to get a lawyer and sue the town because I was tired of it. It's been 8 years, and every time there's snow, I have to find a way to get out of the house. So last year when I saw more houses being built, I was excited. There are more houses. Now they'll pay more attention. There are going to be 7 houses on the street. Nothing has changed. And now there's an application for a subdivision. I love the chance to have more neighbors, to have more people living there. It's going to be great. But I think it will be fair, it will be irresponsible to continue to subject people. People are going to move into that house and go through the same thing that we've been going through. I have no opposition to, the subdivision being approved, but I think the timing is wrong. I think those of us who have been living there should at least feel that we're part of the town before more houses are added. Thank you.
So, sir, you've been there since 2014?
I have been there since 2014. My house was built in 2009.
And you have one of those 7 houses from
Yes.
that? Okay. And you've not had a real finished road since you've been there?
Yes.
So where are you, just beyond the original?
Just beyond
cul-de-sac?
that. That was part of the reason why I could, because all I had to do was try and get just plow enough so I could get my car
to the
right there.
existing
Yeah. So I don't know how
cul-de-sac.
other people down the road would have done that.
I don't understand.
Yeah, me either.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Mr. Porto? Could you answer Mr. D'Ambrosio's question? Is the original developer still associated with this project and application?
Yes, so the answer to that question would be yes.
Yep. All right, can you address these concerns? Like, this is the first this commission has learned about this unfinished road and residents living there.
What can I tell you about that?
Yeah.
Right. So my understanding is that as Jack said, the road will be completed when the construction is completed. So that's what I believe is going to happen. So this is the last lot with the last house for this 7-lot subdivision, and when it's completed, the road will be finished and turned over to the town, assuming it's built to town standards and accepted by the town.
Roads going first. Am I missing something here? How do we get to give COs on houses where there's no road to the
To
house?
service it. That's a good question. The building
The
inspector.
building department does the COs.
Right.
Typically, the roads are the last thing to go in or for at least the final binder course, because, if you're bringing equipment in and out, it distorts
Sure.
the roads. But I'm not sure if there's a requirement for the road to be completed before that CO. I would have to check with the building inspector.
Okay.
I mean, 7 years seems excessive, not to have a finished road in.
Seemed excessive without.
And if the applicants they are not finishing the road for their own convenience and to protect their investment in the first course of pavement, then shouldn't they be maintaining it in the winter? I mean, why are we hearing anything about this?
Right.
Why isn't the bond getting pulled and the town plows going down?
Right.
Right. I think it's a fair question.
I mean, something is seriously wrong.
Right. I mean, I've been around here a long time. I've seen a lot of subdivisions. I've never seen this lag of starting, selling a lot and getting a road in. To last 7 years, I've never seen that.
So I understand, and I can certainly speak with my client, and I will. And I got the message, loud and clear. I'm sorry for the neighbors, and I understand the board's commission. I'll speak with my client. My understanding, perhaps I'm wrong, was that it's just the finish course that has not yet gone down. So there's a road. I understand it needs to be plowed. I understand it's not been turned over. So I get the responsibilities, okay? I can address that, or certainly work with the applicant to address that. But to the extent that my understanding of that is inaccurate, you can inform me. But it's just a finish layer. I'm not a road guy, but that's my understanding. And as already been discussed, we're not going to run heavy equipment over that and have to do that same layer twice.
I drove down there today, and I thought everything past the first cul-de-sac had been done in like the last year, because it was still in it was filthy. It was, there was no, curbing. It looked like a construction access to me. I thought it was a very recent thing. To know that it's been that way for 7 or 8 years is
Well,
crazy.
We can address that. We can address that. We've done a lot of work in town.
The maintenance is a major concern.
I got it. I got it. But at the risk of stating the obvious, I see this issue as separate from the application that's before this commission, which is a simple resub.
What is the feeling of the commission? That is true, but what are our options?
Looks like you might have some additional
Oh,
public input.
okay, yep, so sorry.
Just
You need to come to the podium, please, and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Barbara Ekman. I live at 365 Demarest Drive in Orange.
Barbara, I think you're going to have to take off your mask.
Okay.
Yeah, Demarest.
My name is Barbara Ekman. I live at 365 Demarest Drive in Orange. My question would be, or comment, is that if it's been 7 years that these people have had difficulty with getting in and out of their residence, how does that make it look for whatever it is you're going to be doing with this lot? I don't live close to this lot, but I can see the concern that it would be for neighbors that, if they can't get what's there done, what are they going to do with another one? Is it another 7 years? Or are they going to have more problem with the diversion of the way the water goes? I understand what you said, gentlemen, and that's great. It sounds like it's a good conservation thing with the way the groundwater is going to be handled. But if the water then hits the cement of your new home that goes in there and then erodes the base of that, then you've got crumbling walls of a basement, They're going with French drains. I don't know. I'm not a builder. But these are issues that come to my mind, not even being a builder, but having been a homeowner and living in multiple homes over the last 30 years. So proceed with caution. Thanks.
Thank you. Yep. Yes, sir.
I'd like to address what you just said. It does sound nice, what you just said. Beautiful, great, legal speak. But the goal here is to re-subdivide, and you said the road will be done when the subdivision is complete. There was no plan to re-subdivide previously, so why wasn't the road done? So right now, I can't really believe that. So I'm holding this commission to hold the developer to get the road done, because without him, by saying, I'm going to get it done later, I can't put in a driveway. I have a loan that I have to pay on. I can't put in a driveway. No driveway, buses can't pick up my kids, and you're just saying they'll be done later. If the property is not completed in a year, do I have to wait for a year for me to put in a driveway? You guys need to answer some of these basic questions. When would I get to do it? It's great. He's going to make money building another subdivision. Great. But what about me? What about all the other people that live on the street? It's great. He doesn't live there. We would have to live there. The buses can't pick up my kids. I can't have a driveway, So how we want it done now. Maybe if he doesn't get this re-subdivision, he will get it done quicker. That's what I think. So I have no problem with this re-subdivision, but for the basic people that live there, please give us the basic amenities. That's all we ask for. So by telling us it will be done when the division is done, when would that be done? Would it be done in March, April? If it's done by April, by all means. But I don't think a house asking for a subdivision now will be done in April this year. No way. It's going to be done at least a year. So are we going to be waiting for another year to get the road done? Answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Porto?
Yeah. Thank you. I don't have a more definitive answer to provide to you at this time. So what I had said, or what I meant to say, is that the road would be done when the construction is done, not the subdivision. I understand. But the heavy equipment that would service another lot would have to be completed, and then the road would be finished. And that's fairly standard. But as I said, I will speak with my client. I understand. I heard the neighbors. I can appreciate the tenor of the commission. I get it. My client's done a lot of work in this town. He's sensitive to these concerns. I will speak to him.
Okay. Thank you.
And there is a bond. And, to the extent that you guys want to pull the bond, pull the bond. There's probably other alternatives, but I'll give me a moment to speak with my client. Quite candidly, it's the first time I'm hearing of this.
Okay.
So, I'm not diminishing any of the public's concerns. I appreciate them coming out. I appreciate them letting me know. Jack, I've already sent you an email about another project. I will report to you within 24 hours on this.
I personally would like to give you 2 weeks and hold this hearing open until the next meeting. And I'd like to talk with the town engineer and find out what the heck's going on.
Okay, but what I'm not sure the re-subdivision application is predicated on the road.
Okay, then I would like to talk with the wetlands enforcement officer about engaging another consultant to go out and flag this property just to make sure.
So that, Commissioner, you sound like that's you're inviting inaction. The testimony, the unopposed testimony is that there's no wetland soils on the property. That seems to me like you're offering an option for me to either acquiesce or you're going to try to delay in approval.
I'm not going to delay it. I can certainly hold open a public hearing if I think I need more information on any topic.
In the basis for the concern for an independent review of another soil scientist in light of Mr. Lord's testimony and credentials is what?
I might want a second opinion.
You might want a second opinion. That's the basis that this commission is going to use, that you might want a second opinion. Because there's no testimony at all that contradicts the expert testimony that was provided by this individual, by Mr. Lord. Your supposition is that you may want another opinion. I think that there's certain bounds within which the commission must act. I think the law says that if the property meets the requirements, that the commission is required to approve it. I mean, there's a limit to the commission's discretion. Now, I'm happy to work with the commission, but to be given an ultimatum that you're just going to find a way to stop us, Commissioner, that's not the way to do business.
I think there are a few members that just feel they want some more time to understand what's going on there and what the 7-year delay was. My concern is about the health and safety of the people, as I'm sure yours and your client is.
It is.
So if this commission feels that it's prudent to take 2 weeks for all of us to understand what's going on and have some dialogue with the developer, we all want the same thing. It looks like it does meet all our subdivision regs. I don't see any problem there. But something came about tonight that I think we all need to work on.
Okay.
And if this commission feels they need 2 more weeks, I think that seems fair.
That is eminently fair versus a veiled threat of a referral for wetlands. So I'm happy to move the matter along for 2 weeks for that purpose.
Okay, that is my intent. And I'm going to see what Mr. Kaplan and Mr. Trenti think about it.
Yeah, I didn't take it as a veiled threat, but I think Judy's is probably, a more intelligent way to proceed on this thing. Okay?
Tom, you want to keep the public hearing open? Okay.
I agree with you. I think we ought to keep it open.
Okay, there's more public comment if the gentleman can come to the podium. You have to come up, sir.
Yes, okay. Do I have to state my name again?
Yes, please.
Yep.
Okay. Raphael D'Ambroso. I was a faculty member at the Lowell Institute of Technology, College of Engineering for several years, at the New Jersey Institute of Technology for even more years, at the State Technical College in Norwalk for even more years. And one thing I learned about science is that there is no absolute yes or no. Even Dr. Fauci agrees with that. Now, we had one set of civil engineers who came through here and said you can't build on that property. Now we have another set of civil engineers who say you could. Well, who's right? I couldn't agree more. I think this is a potentially dangerous situation. And I agree with the lady who spoke earlier. I think you have to tread lightly here because there could be a lot of liabilities. And I don't think anybody ought to stand here and lose their temper about it. Let's talk rationally about it. But certainly to say we have an expert and he's God and everybody should bow down and just say, okay, we take his word for it. I've been around scientists for, my first faculty position was 1963. So that'll give you some idea of how long I've been around engineers, civil and otherwise. And none of them would agree that everything they say is absolutely right all the time. So give it some thought. And I agree with the woman who spoke. This is something that you really got to think about very strongly and deeply and profoundly because it affects a lot of lives. I was here when this property was put up for a nursing home, and I was here when this property was put up for a supermarket. And in both cases, the two salient stumbling blocks were roads and water. And tonight, those are still the two salient stumbling blocks, roads and water. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Apologize if I lost my temper. Sorry. We will be back in 2 weeks. We will have an answer for you.
And we'll all work together.
100%.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Porto.
Thank you all. Thank you all. I thought this was going to be brief.
Sometimes they take a hard left on us. Okay. So for those in the audience, this topic will be, this public hearing will be open. This will be on our next agenda. It'll still be a public hearing, so there'll be more opportunity to speak. I think we'll have an update, from the developer at that point. But the meeting will be noticed. What's the date, Jack?
The 1st of March, I believe.
So it's probably the first Tuesday of March?
Yes. 2 Tuesdays from now. This is the 1st of March.
I should also say, this is the same developer who put up a very difficult project over a period of 10 years and did a very nice job. So it's not something we haven't dealt with before.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I expect to get an answer, I would imagine. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next item of our public hearing. And that's to hold a public hearing in accordance with Connecticut General Statute regarding opting out of provisions of the Connecticut General Statutes concerning temporary health care structures. So, Vinnie?
We do have to read that legal notice.
I had a feeling.
Yes.
Thanks, Jack.
Yep.
Second. So I believe this is the one for the 4th and the 11th, Jack?
Yes.
All right. To appear one time on Friday, February 4th, 2022, and one time on February 11th, 2022, the Orange TPZC. Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that on Tuesday, February 15, 2022, at 7 o'clock, the Orange Town Hall, 617 Orange Center Road, the Orange Town Plan Zoning Commission, will conduct a public hearing on the following. To hold a public hearing in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-1BB, the small parenthetical J, as amended by Public Act 21-29, Section 3, regarding opting out of the provisions of Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-1BB, and Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-2, parenthetical D, parenthetical 5, as amended by this Public Act 21-29, Section 4, concerning temporary health care structures. To hold a public hearing in accordance with Public Act 21-29, Section 6, parenthetical F, regarding opting out of the provisions of Section 6, parenthetical A, to subsection D, Public Act 21-29, concerning accessory apartments, and to hold a public hearing regarding opting out of the provisions of Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-2, parenthetical 9, subdivision, parenthetical little d, as amended by Public Act 21-29, concerning limitations on parking spaces for dwelling units. A copy of this notice has been filed with Orange Town Clerk. Additional information is on file, Orange Zoning Department, dated in Orange, Connecticut, this 3rd day of February 2022.
Thank you, Paul.
Okie dokie.
Can you hold on 1 second? I just need to, because for some reason it's not. There we go. Okay?
Okay. So as everybody recalls, Connecticut General Statute passed several new laws last July. Several pertain to zoning. So we've been working with Jack and Town Attorney, going through them. Some we must adopt, some the statutes allow us to opt out of once we consider our community and the health, safety, and welfare, and come to a conclusion that this is either something that is good for the town or opt out that it is not good for the town. And at this level, we need a 2/3 vote, is that correct?
Correct. 2/3 vote on all of these, which tonight would be a 4-0 vote, obviously.
So a town attorney, Vin Marino, prepared 3 documents, each pertaining to the specific statutes. Based upon you know, the input that we have given him in our dialogue up to
From
this
previous
point.
meetings.
And the effect if we opt out is that we will not be able to have the temporary, let's say the temporary health, healthcare structures. I'm sorry. What is, I was just asking what the net effect is if we opt out of the temporary healthcare structure proposal.
They wouldn't be permitted as of right in our town. We would have to have a 2/3 vote, posted in a legal notice in the paper.
We would have to go through the usual procedure.
Exactly, right. Or, which we wouldn't allow by our regulations right now.
Right now.
And every residential lot in Orange, one dwelling is allowed. You can have accessory structures, but they cannot be used as dwellings.
And if I recall, the purpose of this was for the healthcare provider to be able to reside on the same lot. And we had issues with septic, no?
We did.
Well,
Go
it's a little, the statute's a little stilted.
Yes.
Okay?
That's what I thought.
So, first, it defines a caregiver as someone who's doing unpaid care. Okay? So, what type of caregivers give unpaid care other than family, so to speak? Then it defines, mentally or physically impaired by the standards of, I think it's, so many things of like,
Daily ADLs.
Yeah, ADLs, right. So that within the healthcare structure, the person requiring, the temporary healthcare structure, the person requiring care has to be the one of the occupants. It's silent as to whether there could be more than one occupant in there, but it looks like, but one of them has to be the person gaining the care.
You're saying in the structure itself, in the temporary structure?
That's what it says. Under B, has one occupant who is the mentally or physically impaired person under temporary healthcare structure.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
So the only scenario I could think of, so this is similar to, within our statutes now, you can create an accessory apartment for your mother, and either your mother, so to speak, is in the accessory structure, and you're in that, or vice versa.
Well, no, I mean, if in other words, you're taking care of her, so she's in the main structure, or it's her main structure, you're in the temporary structure, being the caregiver.
Well, no, I'm saying that in our regs now.
It's attached, though.
It's attached.
It's a fundamental
So
difference.
this seems like it would fit into a niche, if you will, of you don't want to make the investment in the permanent structure for whatever reason, but it still looks like it's mostly a family concept.
Do we allow for that now?
I don't think we do.
A permanent structure added to the house for,
Well, the in-law apartments.
the in-law apartment is the only.
Right.
Yeah, it would be the only way for something similar to this to be within our regulations now. But again, it has to be attached. We don't allow any detached structure to be used.
Right, so effectively adding to you have to hit all the side yards and the setbacks and the
Correct.
increased
You have to
septic.
meet all the
and
regulations
There's
for an
5
in-law
or 6
apartment.
qualifications that you have to meet for the special permit to accommodate elderly housing.
Right. So that's the only scenario I could come up with where this would look like an option to a permanent structure. I mean, God forbid that the person you were trying to take care of was only going to last a bit of time, and you wanted to be with them. It would seem like a compassionate thing without having to build a complete structure. But as it is, and applying to everything and everywhere, it just seems
Very awkward.
Yeah, and a little overboard, and I mean, you could put a 10 by 40 type mobile home in your parking lot as long as in your driveway, as long as you were past the front yard setbacks.
The other thing as a practical matter is, how many square feet are you really gonna need, in most cases, to care for somebody? I mean, the chances of not having that space in your house to begin with, in my mind, is pretty remote.
That's a good point.
But, there might be a philanthropic person who's willing to take in someone who's not a family member.
But not in the house.
Yeah, but that does seem a little inconsistent.
Not that philanthropic.
Sorry, so, yeah,
Yeah.
that one's interesting.
Right, and I think the septic issue was a topic that came up, our concern
Yeah.
with the
How do we-
secondary structure.
That was part of it, and then, of course, I think either Kev or I think it was Kevin who set me straight on the fact that it had to be removed, because I didn't see that part of it. So at least that part was within 120 days or something like that after
Right.
it's not needed. Yeah.
Right.
But still, that presupposes that what happens during that, it could be for years this temporary structure is on there. What happens for water? What happens for sewer? For septic?
Right.
It's not really addressed. You have to tie into the current stuff for that house.
Right, and many homes have wells,
Right.
not even city water.
In many homes, their septic might not be rated for an additional bedroom.
Usually not.
Usually not.
Most times with developers, from my standpoint, they have the absolute minimum that they needed. That's it.
Right.
Theoretically, no, it wouldn't work. I was going to say you could have a chemical toilet, but if you're giving care to somebody, you want probably a shower and a...
Right. I think it's very unwieldy the way this statute is structured. I don't think it's going to be much benefit to the town, negligible at best. That was my take on it anyhow.
Although a portion of it might be interesting to consider in the in-law vein of, maybe as something to consider as a special use type permit to allow a temporary structure.
For me, it would have to be effective. It would have to be not just dealing with unpaid people, that it would accommodate if you want to have somebody live there, whether it be your actual family member or somebody who's going to help the family member. It's got to be realistic. Most people pay for help from time to time, doesn't have to, but I think there's a whole component of people that do. And if you're going to have a temporary structure like that, I think it's got to contemplate how we keep it there. Meaning, is it tying? I think the actual statute has to say how we're getting water and sewer to it. Is it going to be one of the criteria?
Although the definition of caregiver says that they have to be responsible for it. It doesn't say they have to give the care. So
Right.
I didn't write it.
Yeah, no.
It would have been a lot better.
I don't know about that. Are we doing these one at a time, ma'am?
Yes, we're going to do
Okay.
one at a time. So if everybody has the document that,
Should we see if people during
yeah,
the
no,
public?
well,
we
we
do
can
that.
still, yeah.
Okay.
But I want to get some thoughts into the record from the commission. Some of the reasons that Vinnie wrote down that we would want to opt out is the incompatibility of temporary healthcare structures within the residential neighborhood. We've kind of touched upon that. The incompatibility of temporary healthcare structures within the residential neighborhood which have been designated as historic or are eligible for such a designation. The failure of Public Act 2129 to provide the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Orange and the Board of Selectmen and the people of Orange with enough flexibility to regulate temporary healthcare structures in a way that is compatible with the goals of the Orange zoning regs and the Plan of Conservation.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to pick up the next one. Very small staff.
Yeah. Let the small staff pick it up. No, he can't.
The small number of zoning enforcement personnel available to the town of Orange, whereby it may be difficult, if not impossible, to assess whether a particular temporary healthcare structure actually complies with the provisions of Connecticut General Statutes 8-1BB, subsection D5 of Section 8-2 of the General Statutes, as amended by Public Act 21-29.
Are there any comments from the public on this proposed? Oh, yes, Dr. Messina?
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Lawrence Messina, 214 Surrey Drive. As a resident of the town of Orange, I have my concerns concerning having a detached temporary type of housing. I mean, certainly, I feel that people that are in need of health care should have every option available. But my big concern, of course, is, again, how do you hook it into the septic system? And also, a lot of our homes are, on well water. So I think that should be taken into consideration before a decision is made on this. So personally, myself, I would be opposed to having that type of addition to the town of Orange.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kindly state your name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, I'm Edward Hartel, 528 Wagon Trail. I'm not in favor of us going with this. I think we should opt out. I think you've mentioned some comments already that while it's supposed to allow for an extra living area, the one comment you made of how much space you need, if you already have a home, you probably can't have that much space. You don't need that much space. And maybe this provides for much smaller homes in different towns, but not our town. I would definitely opt out, and that's what I recommend. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public to speak on this?
I do have one message from a resident which kind of touches on all three of these opt-out options. Would you rather maybe I read it, or just mark that I've submitted it to the record of all three?
No, you can read it.
Read it?
Yep.
Sure. This is from resident Wayne Garrick of 119 Rogers Road. I read the article in the Orangetown News in regards to a few contemplated zoning regulations, and I would appreciate it if you would be so kind as to pass my thoughts along to the P&Z Commission. Most of those who have worked or served on boards with me know I'm very much in favor of diversity and creating a fabric for our community, but the caregiver temporary housing unit seems problematic to me. First, I think the size is much too large at 500 square feet. That could be a trailer 10 feet wide by 50 feet long. Just on my drive up Lambert Road each day, there are at least 3 or 4 recreational or storage trailer violations on my short jaunt to I-95. I think if one has a caregiver, it would make more sense for the accommodations to be within the existing residence. If, for one reason or another, the resident can demonstrate that there is insufficient space, I can envision a 200 square foot temporary structure satisfying all setbacks and sanitary requirements as permitted as per special permit. At 500 square feet, before one knows it, everyone will have a caregiver. This could be for cognitive reasons rather than physical, and trailers will be adjacent to multiple residences. As we all know, once something is in place, it is very difficult to remove. I would not be in favor of trailers for caregivers except under extraordinary circumstances with an annual renewal certificate. And this is touching on item number 2. Unfortunately, I'm also opposed to accessory dwelling units as they, well, unless the property is on sewer, and then I think a new zone for 2 family residences can be created. I think this goes to quality of life for those seeking a semblance of peacefulness and space in the single-family zone. In fact, I don't think single-family zone is a bad phrase. What Orange may need is a revised planning concept because I have always been in favor of mixed uses in zones which delineate appropriate uses. On to the third. Sorry to make it 3 out of 3, but I'm also opposed to reducing the parking requirements. Perhaps one of the largest violations in town is the parking of commercial vehicles and those with auto hobbies with cars parked outside. One of my neighbors has five cars parked outside, another 1 car, 2 trucks, and 2 trailers. No need to complain because I value our neighbors much more than the visual pollution, but wouldn't it be nice if the regulations were either consistent with what people actually do and or provide alternatives, which in my opinion should include suitable screening. We actually have 1 car parked outside, but it is screened from the road in our neighbor by dense planting. It's amazing how many people have garages, but instead of vehicles housed in the garage, they operate their businesses from the garage. As I've probably mentioned, I have designed projects in approximately 50 of the 169 municipalities in Connecticut. Some have great zoning regulations, others are antiquated. I have always felt the regulations in Orange are generally very good, but they could use improvement/refinement, and perhaps if we had additional personnel, they could be enforced in a user-friendly manner. Ultimately, this makes our community more enjoyable in which to live and adds value to our property just as the school system and services do. Thank you so much, Wayne Garrick.
So what I take away is that you need assistance.
Yeah, me too. That's all I got from that. Yeah.
You need a deputy.
Yeah.
So, we could close this public hearing on this topic. If we
On the
feel.
healthcare first?
On the
healthcare
temporary
structures.
healthcare structures. So we'll have a
Off we
motion.
do it, yeah.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we had dialogue. I appreciate the input from the public on these matters. Our town attorney did prepare a resolution in the event we opted to opt out. So do you want to read the entire resolution, Jack?
Sure.
Or do we want our secretary to read it?
He looks like he's ready
When
to
you
do
make the big bucks, Paul.
I can't just, here we go. So, I guess I'll be moving to opt out, or I'll make a motion to opt out, and I'd like to incorporate as that part of that motion, although I do appreciate the things that we said, to adopt the resolution that I'm going to read into the record from our town attorney. Resolution to opt out of the provisions of Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-1BB and subsection D5 of Section 8-2 as amended by Public Act 21-29 concerning temporary health structures. Whereas Connecticut Public Act 21-29, effective October 1st, 2021, amends the provisions of Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-1BB and subsection D5 of Section 8-2 to authorize the installation of temporary health care structures in residential zoning districts. And whereas a municipality, by vote of its legislative body, may opt out of the provisions of Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-1BB and subsection D5 of Section 8-2 of the General Statutes as amended by Public Act 21-29, provided the Planning and Zoning Commission pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-1BBJ, subsection 1, first holds a public hearing in accordance with the provisions of Section 8-7D of the Connecticut General Statutes on such proposed opt-out, subsection number 2, affirmatively decides to opt out of the provisions of said sections within the period of time permitted under Section 8-7D of the Connecticut General Statutes, and 3, states upon its records, the reasons for such decisions, and 4, publishes a notice of such decision in a newspaper having substantial circulations in a municipality, not in a municipality, not later than 15 days after such a decision has been rendered. And whereas the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Orange, has complied, thank you, with the requirements of subsection J of the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-1BB, prior to acting upon this resolution. Now, therefore, let it be it resolved by the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Orange, much better, that it declares in its affirmative action to opt out of the provisions of Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8-1BB and subsection D5 of Section 8-2 of the Connecticut General Statutes as amended by Public Act 21-29, authorizing the installation of temporary health care structures in residential zoning districts. Be it further resolved that the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Orange bases its decision and declaration on multiple factors, including, 1, the incompatibility of temporary health care structures within the residential neighborhood. 2, the incompatibility of temporary health care structures within the residential neighborhood, which would have been designated as historic or are eligible for such a designation. 3, the failure of Public Act 21-29 to provide the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Orange, the Board of Selectmen, and the people of the Town of Orange with enough flexibility to regulate temporary health care structures in a way that is compatible with the goals of the Orange zoning regulations and its plan of conservation of development. 4, the small number of zoning enforcement personnel available to the Town of Orange, whereby it may be difficult, if not impossible, to assess whether a particular healthcare structure actually complies with the provisions of Connecticut General Statutes, Section 8(1) BB and subsection D5 of Section 8-2 of the Connecticut General Statutes as amended by Public Act 21-29. And be it further resolved by the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Orange that by adoption of this resolution, the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Orange votes to opt out of the provisions of this law and also to consider amending its zoning regulations to include a prohibited use of temporary health care structures pursuant to the amendments made to the Connecticut General Statutes by Public Act 21-29, with the recognition that such provision shall not be valid and effective until the Board of Selectmen and the legislative body of the Town of Orange also holds a vote to opt out of the provisions of Public Act 21-29, and be it further resolved by the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Orange that the town clerk be directed to publish notice of the passage of this resolution having substantial circulation in the Town of Orange not later than 15 days after this resolution has been adopted, and by following the publication of this resolution, refer this matter to the Board of Selectmen for discussion and action dated in Orange, Connecticut, this 15th day of February 2022.
Second.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is a unanimous vote, so the 2/3 requirement carries. Okay, the next item that pertains to the Connecticut General Statutes is to hold a public hearing in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes regarding opting out of the provision of Connecticut General Statutes concerning, concerning accessory apartments. So that's the second one that we can contemplate relative to our town.
Well, similar to the temporary healthcare structures, you know, it doesn't seem to take into account anything other than bulk area requirements in terms of setbacks from property lines, and it's silent as to whether you'd have to maintain your setbacks from the septic systems. Doesn't seem to take into account whether the septic systems on all these single-family lots can actually handle the additional sanitary discharge that's going to be generated by this. It just seems like a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah.
Let me try and
It's
double the
ill-conceived
population of
relative
Orange.
to at least our town and the challenges that we face when 100% of our residential areas, well, not 100%, very close to 100% is on septic. And there's a good portion that's on wells, a third, I would imagine. It doesn't even account.
Yeah. It's
So again, in addition to those concepts, we have to make findings. The town attorney provided some factors, the incompatibility of accessory apartments within the residential neighborhood which have been designated as historic or are eligible for such a designation. The Orange zoning regulations already regulate accessory apartments that provide temporary affordable housing options for individuals likely to be served. The failure of Public Act 21-29 to provide the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Orange, the Board of Selectmen, and the people of Orange with enough flexibility to regulate accessory apartments in a way that is compatible with the goals of the Orange zoning regulation and its plan of conservation. And 4, the small number of zoning enforcement personnel, sorry, Jack, available to the town of Orange would make it difficult, if not impossible, to assess whether a particular accessory apartment complies with the provision of the Connecticut General Statutes as amended by Public Act 2129. Do we have any comment from the public on this topic? Yes, sir. Can you come to the podium and state your name and address?
My name is George Ekman. I'm 365 Demarest Drive. In addition to all of the comments that were made here, my concerns are around town infrastructure. You've got police, you've got fire, and then most especially schools. I could foresee tax rates going through the roof. I would also be concerned, given what trailers look like, as to what would happen to property values. And then I suppose, as a final thing, if this were to be approved, I'd recommend the town seal be changed. You take away that farmer scene and just put a double wide there.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Edward Hartel, 528 Wagon Trail. I think you've mentioned a lot of good reasons that we should opt out. I think the fact that we already have a provision for auxiliary housing as part of our regulations, we've covered this issue certainly in more detail than this very simplistic proposed state a way of handling the allocation of the residential areas and the sizing of the home. So I certainly, again, recommend to opt out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
So again, I think the fact that we do have zones that are sewered, that have apartments, you have fire lights gone through, so we are creating a diversity of housing stocks that I think work for our town, and probably address to some degree this state statute.
Right, and not all of our single-family housing stock is not meant for mother or daughter or accessory apartments. It will be a vast minority, but I don't think making it available for that is necessarily our charge. If the statute, I think, or the potential regulation is poorly drawn, doesn't take into account a number of, basic issues from a structural standpoint, I just think it's not necessarily in the best interest of Orange.
Any other comments? Shall we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye.
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 Aye. Anyone prepared to read the resolution?
Can I just adopt the resolution as provided to our...
I think that would
Okay.
be
Well-
fine.
Okay.
I'm going to move that...
I'm sorry.
That's okay, dear.
9 now?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know where we...
No, we're on 8.
We're still on 8.
We're on
Still
8.
on 8.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
8
you.
months. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry about that.
We're
So,
on our way to 9. That's our last one.
Yeah.
So I would like to make a motion to opt out of the provisions of Section 6, A, to D of Public Act 21-29 concerning the accessory apartments for the reasons that we articulated here at the table, but also as more concisely put together by our town attorney in the resolution that I'm going to file with the zoning enforcement officer. Can I go?
He's got one. You got one.
Yeah, I got one here.
Consider it filed, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, number 9.
Do we?
Oh, we have to vote, so sorry. Are we going to vote
We have
on?
to do this again.
Yes. So
Second, the motion was made.
the motion was made.
Second.
To opt out, seconded by Commissioner Cornell. All those in favor? Aye. Again, 4-1, let the record show.
4-0.
4-0, I'm sorry, 4-0. This is past my bedtime, guys. Okay, the last item is to hold a public hearing regarding opting out of provisions of the Connecticut General Statute concerning limitations on parking spaces for dwelling units. Commissioner Cornell, do you want to give us a little background? Although we went through these several times, but if you want to just update everybody.
Yeah, no, our existing regulations don't have a punitive number of parking spaces required for the uses that are common to all of our, zones. And it seems that there doesn't seem to be any particular, thought given by this statute to, it's a one-size-fits-all. We'll make every use and every, dwelling structure the same, whether they have 5 cars outside or
Do
one.
they don't give us a minimum here. Do they give us any numbers? I don't know how they could.
Oh, the speed limits? I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about the parking spaces.
No, parking spaces. I mean, how many parking spaces would you be allowed on this thing?
The only one that contradicts our current regulations is for one-unit dwelling structures. But just to read straight from the memo, PA 2129 requires that zoning must not require parking in excess of 1 space per studio or 1-bedroom unit, or 2 spaces for larger housing units unless a municipality opts out. And currently, the only one that would contradict our current zoning parking requirements is the one dwelling unit structures, because we require 2 parking spaces right now.
Well, our town attorney, again, provided us with some reasons to opt out. Base the decision and declaration on multiple factors, including the existing zoning regulations adequately address the parking needs for the town of Orange. We already have them, and they work. And second, failure of Public Act 2129 to provide the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Orange, the Board of Selectmen, and the people of the Town of Orange with enough flexibility to regulate the parking needs in a way that is compatible with the goals of the Orange zoning regulation and its plan of conservation and development.
I'm ready to close public hearing.
Okay, we have to,
Any members
any
of the public?
comments from the public on the parking? Okay. No, we are very lucky to have the input from residents in this town.
Barbara Ekman from 365 Demarest Drive. I think that we have the laws and everything in place, the statutes that we need in Orange right now for parking, for health residences, for care, et cetera, and I think that the town has done well. If it needs to be revisited, I'm sure that the zoning commission would be happy to revisit it, and the town people would be happy to hear about it. But I think that right now, opting out of these things makes the most sense. So that's my 2 cents.
you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hertel?
Ed Hartel, 528 Wagon Trail. I believe we should opt out of this. It's rather straightforward. We have enough parking regulations that seem sufficient in the town of Orange, and I can't imagine the circumstance where the proposal from the state allows only one parking space for any kind of unit. Minimum is always needed two. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that public hearing is closed.
I'll move.
Mr. Kaplan.
Yeah, I'm going to move that we opt out of the provisions of Connecticut General Statutes 8-2D9 as amended by this Public Act 21-29, Section 4, regarding limitations on parking spaces for dwelling units that Mr. Cornell had articulated before and the residents articulated as well. And is contained in the resolution that I'm going to file that was drafted by our town attorney. And I'll file it with the zoning enforcement officer.
Consider it filed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Let the record show it's 4-0. And that is the last item on our agenda.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Don't tell Ozzy we're here this late. Ruin my
We gotta
reputation
vote.
for.
Amen.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good job.